Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody to Hackers Hangout number 23. I'm Stanford Mings, and I'm going to have everybody give a little intro about themselves, where they are, their background, and yeah. So I'll start with myself. My name is Stanford T. Mings Jr. I am the Chief Technology Officer of a technology consulting company in the Virgin Islands, and my passion is just about anything technology. So I will pass it on to let me Steve. You go up next. You're the newest to the group.
Okay. Um, I'm Steve Spence. I work with a company named Architects Inc., a consulting and technology consultant company. We do essentially design IP networks, routing, switching, firewall. That's the infrastructure side. We also do some development on the mobile apps areas as well. We develop primarily on the Android platform. We plan to have something on the and iOS 7 soon. That's essentially what we do in a nutshell. Yes.
Nikolai.
Yeah. Um, I'm Nikolai. I'm in Brazil. I was born and raised in Antigua. I'm a sort of hobbyist programmer. A real noob. I consider myself to be, and a sort of script kiddie. And my laptop is burning.
Mine
What
too.
date? What you just said?
My laptop is burning. Not
Yeah,
literally. It's just running real hot.
All right. Well,
We're in
take
the same
care.
struggle. Day in the
All right. All right. Late. All right. Leighton, it's you.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Leighton Pryon. But see, that's not actually my real name. So yeah, call that the mystery. I'm a little kid. I do kiddie stuff. So I do. Good to meet all of you. That's my intro. Alright.
Okay. Cool. Cool. Well, we have a quite wide variety here. So let me start off. Where should I start? Let me start off with how I met Steve. I met Steve this week in Dominica uh, at the Caribbean Network Operators Group 7th conference, Caribnog 7. Uh, there, we discussed a number of things from cybersecurity to implementation of cloud technologies, pairing, exchange points, the use of networks in enterprises, and it was a good meeting. In fact, I encouraged you guys, Nikolai, Leighton, to join the Caribnog mailing list and the Caribnog Facebook group. There's a wealth of information in there that I think anybody who's in the technology field can benefit. I know I benefited a lot from just learning a bunch of stuff from these guys, including Steve. Um, it's something I recommend everybody go to. Um, One of the things we discussed, interestingly enough, that I don't know we can rate. I don't think we can really get into too deep in it, but we had some folks come over. You know what? This is an interesting one. You guys may get a little joke kicker out of this one. We had some folks come over from I think it's the OAS, uh,
Oh yes, yes.
OECS, OECS,
Oh yes, yes.
uh, yes, Organization of Eastern Caribbean States. They came over to ask us, get some input from us on various policies and legislation that they're contemplating. And the one that got a lot of the uh, blood, the juices flowing, was when they asked us if it was possible. How possible would it be for the service providers. This is more specifically the ISPs or the cloud service providers. How feasible would it be to capture and retain all data on networks for either 2,
7 years.
5, or 7 years?
What the hell do you want that for? The first question. What?
This was almost about to become a law.
5 or 7 years, fellas. Tell
This
us.
was
You want to capture? Like just walk up to it. So.
Yeah, this was almost
this
about
was
to become a law.
almost and they were going to use us as the rubber stamp for this thing to be a law, and it I think it's safe to say, Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, but it literally woke up the meeting
Yes,
because everybody said, wait, what? You want us to store? Now, guys, you have to understand. They want the ISPs, the network operators, to store every piece of traffic, every packet for 2, 5, or 7 years. That almost made. I'm sorry, repeat that.
What the hell do you even need it for? What are you gonna get from it?
If they can't get somebody, they can't get approval from say y'all or whatever. They're going to find from somewhere, and somebody's going to do it. So that's the first thing. This is obviously a precursor.
I missed that. Could you run that by me again?
All right, sorry. Well, the fact that they're interested means they're going to go ahead and do it. So, this is clearly just a precursor.
It was a policy meeting, and they were drafting the proposal for developing the laws, but they were using us as feedback for it. But they actually later on the next day they actually modified that requirement. Let me explain why it wasn't necessary, and also why it was kind of impossible for the financial restrictions to doing something like that.
And it was this organization, Carabnog, that effectively kind of put a stop to that.
They didn't do anything. They're going to go ahead and do it.
No, not really. No, it's not that type of meeting. Okay. There were actually a group of the stage there are 2 stages before it become law. They needed to actually make the proposal, which what they were called a CSEC group, which actually proposed governance rules for the internet. Then they're supposed to contact all the case holders, and we became one of the stakeholders that could advise that requirement. And so therefore, remember, these are people who don't really know anything about the internet, okay? And these people are using financial rules. That 7-year, 2-year thing is actually came out of the financial world. Every company has to keep 6 years to 5 years amount of financial data. So what they have done is that they have just taken some of those rules and just bring them over into the internet. Okay, not being aware of the technical limitations and how and what they're actually asking. So when someone stood up and actually explained what was required to do something like that, then they backpedal and say, hey, this don't make sense, this is unnecessary, no one. And there are other ways of getting that documentation rather than storing every bit and every byte. Okay, so that doesn't mean automatically that they're going to do it. They actually told us back 2 days later that they actually changed that recommendation.
All right.
Yeah. So it's an example of you can be cynical about a group of people, but often the reason why people are doing certain things is that nobody complains, nobody makes a noise about it, nobody says anything. And so in the Caribbean, we quietly grumble about things, but there's nobody speaking out and say, hey, no, this is foolishness, hey, this can't work, or something like that. We just see laws being implemented and nobody says anything.
Seriously? It's the Caribbean.
Mm.
I'm sorry, repeat that.
Repeat.
I'm like, seriously, in the Caribbean, people not speaking out?
Now people don't speak about it. There are many. Let me tell you upfront. I was surprised, especially on the internet and the UN type stuff. There are people making decisions that affect a wide group of people in the Caribbean that nobody says anything. People in the Caribbean don't attend UNESCO meetings. People in the Caribbean don't attend UN meetings. Or send some idiot to the meetings. There are votes being taken care of right now that people are voting on things that are policies that will affect people in the Caribbean. But we either don't represent ourselves well or we send some idiot. Okay? And that's what I mean by speaking out. People complain. Don't mix up complaining with action, okay?
Okay.
Complaining just you quarreling about how the traffic bad. Um, Action is doing something about it, and we do make a lot of noise, but we don't take very specific actions to get things done. Like, okay, we don't organize, we don't still get groups signed, we don't get petitions signed, we don't go up and lobby over politicians. We don't do that. We complain and make noise, but we don't actually do anything. So don't confuse making noise and complaining with actual action. Two different processes.
That's a very good point. Good thing to remember.
I promise you, we made noise. When I say
Yeah.
we made noise, as in
We make noise, but it's not action.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean in terms of the meeting, when they came to us, Steve, we made it quite clear to them that's unless you know what we should have told them. Yeah, we could retain all that data, but only if you decide you're going to pay us for it.
Which nobody will be willing to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, which nobody will want to do. And plus, we give other examples that that data might not mean anything in the long run. Okay, because it can be, but on top of that, we have a guarantee it wasn't modified. So if we're going to use that against somebody or to track down something, the only way that can hold up in court is if you can guarantee that that data wasn't modified or tampered with in the first place. So having that data in a way is not even that relevant in most cases where you want to use it. Because the
Well,
reason why they want the thing is, yeah, go ahead.
before you could even talk about whether or not the data was tampered with, you have to talk about whether or not you could even collate that data. That's just a bunch of random packets.
Yeah, actually, theoretically, yes. The US does it actually. They do it. Yes, they do it. However, they have massive. The problem with that, of course, because that massive amount of data, you have to use bots and algorithms to search that algorithm. No human being can go through that information.
Yeah.
So you have to use supercomputers with a lot of artificial intelligence algorithms to
Just a
search
bunch
through
of
that data.
parallels and just a bunch of parallel nodes computed.
Yeah. No, well,
You could kind of assemble it up.
yeah, you could do it, but it's not a trivial exercise. Okay.
The thing about it is that it's immensely a lot of data,
Mhm.
and literally every minute, every second, that amount of data increases exponentially.
Yeah.
And it's just impossible.
And not all the
No, I
data is
shouldn't say it's
I wouldn't say
impossible.
impossible. It's not impossible. It's expensive.
Yeah,
Let's
it's not
put it.
impossible. It's expensive. It's extremely expensive.
and not
Lasana,
all actually purposeful or anything. You can't say take all the data and assume that every piece of data is going to be meaningful. A lot of communications over the internet are just signals to some particular component or other, not actual information. Nothing that will ever
Yeah.
become information.
Most of it is protocol, but you can use protocol writers to actually derive the information.
Yeah.
So you might have a protocol like SNMP, okay, which is what they were probably more interested in. There are a lot of formats out there, but you can use Wireshark to reassemble that thing and give you information. All you need is to have some ultimate way of understanding the protocol, which are pretty exact. They're not vague, so you can actually
Yeah, but you have to compare headers in
pardon?
sequence. If it's not, you have to compare headers. So if it's not this kind of header, it's the next kind of header, it's the next kind of header.
Yeah, well, you don't even need to do that actually. You just need to know where the header that down the bracket that control the beginning of the email to the end of the email. That's all you need, and capture everything in between. Load that up because you don't even need to assimilate it in that state. All you need to do is identify that. Am I still online? Yeah.
Even so to
You're still
identify.
there. You're still there.
Sure. Ah. Welcome, Asana.
Hey, Lasana.
Hey, I'd like to welcome Lasano. He's the guy who started Hackers Hangout. Um, if you don't mind, Lasano, you can just give a little intro. You there? Like he's still on muted. That's right, he's still muted. Uh, all right, tell you what, we'll continue. When he gets in, when he gets on, he can step in. Uh, yeah. So yeah, that's basically one of the things that we discussed at Cab. Um, one of the hot things we discussed at Cab Steve. There's just so much stuff there. I don't know where I can begin. Discuss the situation with the legislation, um, security, cybersecurity, number of number of discussions, and blase. Uh, exchange points. Um,
I am back.
yeah, we discussed. You're
Yes.
back.
I got kicked out.
But we may have to go. We may have to go to all icon for to try and save on bandwidth.
Okay.
Uh,
That's probably advisable.
I will tell you what. We'll tell you what. Let's do this. Each person, come up with something that may have happened this week that kind of piqued your interest, or any projects that you may be working on. So let me start with you, Nikolai, since me and Steve we had our week.
Ah, I don't know what to say. I was just about to pull up my saved links list. Um, well, speaking of peer-to-peer, today I was thinking, what if I made a
You're
program?
very soft. Let me try to raise the volume.
Sorry,
I can
today I
hear
was
better.
thinking. All right, you can hear me?
Yes, you're good.
Can hear you.
All right. I don't want you guys to laugh at me. That's why I keep
No,
saying I'm a noob, right?
Let's laugh
I
now,
was
and then we
thinking,
can not laugh later.
yes. Um, I thought of an idea for a peer-to-peer program, another Python project for me to try out. See if I can make something like a library that's a decentralized library. You just share text files between people, and I don't know how to explain it very well. Um, but I was
How
thinking
is
of
that?
something along the lines of people forming like clusters, like they will connect with each other and share just like text files, and that'll be their library. And when one person goes off the cluster, the other people can. It's kind of like what Steve was saying earlier that Skype was trying to do in the early days.
What would be the difference between that and say BitTorrent?
I don't know.
You're familiar with
Um,
BitTorrent, correct?
yeah, am I
Okay.
familiar with BitTorrent? I don't know.
Is is it is this project something for you to cut your to learn about a certain piece of technology, or is it something an actual tool?
Both. I want to advance my learning, my understanding of Python,
Ah,
like
Okay.
get into the networking aspect of it, and I just want. I don't know. I really like that one-on-one kind of connection rather than sending information to a middleman.
Oh yeah, you could just you want to look up Berkeley sockets. That's a pretty standard API you could start with for networking. Typing the name and start here. Berkeley sockets, right? Or also known as BSD sockets. And that's the most basic API you can learn for networking. Just write a little mini server. You'll learn about event loops in a short way because you have to spin in a loop. And that'll be a server. And you could write a little client and pick up a little protocol. That's your first little thing.
Okay, thanks for sharing.
There you go. Look up that, yeah. So you'll learn about connect and all that stuff.
That's cool.
Alright,
All right, Leighton, you?
That's cool. I have one
Anyway,
question though. How you deal with how you post to people who are not online at the time when you need to send something to them?
Oh, it's not like sending things to people. It's just people get to see content when they connect.
Okay, connect to what? The central server are only when, so they're only available when they're online, right? So you can only see content from other people when everybody's online, or the partner that you want to see content from online, right?
No, it's like, so if it was just two people, then it would be like, I can only see your content when you come online. But if
Okay.
it's like three people,
Mhm.
when you go offline, I can see your content still because it's stored on another person's computer.
So okay, so all the nodes are basically storing stuff from other people persons.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I guess it could work. How you protect against bad people?
Oh no, that would have to. It would probably be really, really insecure in the starting point because I'm still pretty new to programming.
Okay. All right. Okay. I guess we could sandbox it, the whole thing altogether. Create a partition, application partition, and each node that stores stuff from other people, so as to isolate it from the rest of your computer. Yeah. Some thoughts, and we can probably get through with it.
have a little Samsung going on there. Yeah.
It sounds like a project I saw on what's it called again? I think it was DEF CON, where this guy, he was using the cache browser, not the browsing cache of people's computers
Hmm.
to actually store data. It'd be encrypted. The data would be encrypted,
Mm.
but it's like you go, if multiple persons go to a certain website, he'll cache his personal data in their cache, in
Ah,
their in their in
cache,
their
cache
in their
location.
browser,
Yeah.
right? So as get more and more people go, they will, his storage capacity will grow, and it would basically, I think basically he was able to get it whereby once he has a certain number of people coming to the website, his data would be, it would be, what's it called again? I saw somebody latent. You made mention of HTML5 local storage. That's
Mm.
right. Um, yeah, and the thing about the reason why he was looking at it seriously was because this was a way for him to keep the data, his personal data, outside the authorities' grasp, because of the fact that data is not being stored on his server.
Oh,
It,
okay.
it, yeah, the purpose of it is decentralization.
Like
If the
Claude
if
in
the
that it's more of a sort of a legal thing. It's not stored on my server. It's stored, but I don't really own. I don't own the responsibility for it. Something like that. That's the only way I could see it being viable. Because otherwise,
that's basically it. He just doesn't want the powers that be to descend on his equipment, and then get access to his data, because his data won't be on his equipment. It'll be stored on the multiple people who have come to his website. It's a one of the really far out uh, solutions. I mean, projects. but you never know. I mean, you
I'm
never
all
know what
interested.
may happen down the future.
Yeah, you might need to be able to transmit information securely without centralized management.
All right, you latent.
All right. Well, I can't really think of anything particularly interesting to mention. But
Any,
uh,
anything this week?
anything this week in technology? Sorry, no. I'm sorry. I don't really keep track of these sort of things very well now. All I really see is like what's on the Facebook group or something like that. I could probably start monitoring LKML.
Re-
Yeah.
repeat that.
I could probably start monitoring LKML for the group, so I can mention when it's on. Yeah. Um, the Linux kernel mailing list LKML. I could start monitoring that, and I'll contribute something from LKML every week or something.
Can you tell me that nothing this week jumped out at you? Absolutely nothing.
Nope. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Please have mercy. I don't have anything.
The idea flow comes and goes.
Yeah.
Not a problem, man. Not a problem. Not a problem. Lasana, you're muted. You're quiet. You want to put something on in the chat and me bring it up? May not be there.
He probably stepped away or something.
Yeah. All right. Tell you what. Let me check my my feed here. 'Cause I saw a whole bunch of stuff came across that really jumped at me.
You can
Um,
continue the network address translation discussion.
I'm sorry. Repeat that.
You could continue the NAT discussion. That was fun.
Oh, that's right. That's right. We were talking about NAT before we went online, and as it applies to IPv6, which
Yeah.
which which reminds me, Steve, is there anybody in Trinidad who's put IPv6 into production?
Um, well, Flow is the most advanced in that regard, actually. We have a guy, he didn't come this meeting, but he normally comes at every meeting. A guy named Brett McIntosh, he works for Flow, and he is basically our resident IPv6 expert. The core, what happened that with Flow, the core network is fully IPv6.
Right.
The way they reach now is a client, a CPE, the client premises equipment. Um, that now, I guess that was all one of the big limitations with hurdle that we had to flow with IPv6. That there's a wide amount of non-compliant customer premises equipment out there that the ISP will have to foot the bill to change. Okay. So
Right.
so that I think that is where they're at right now. They have transit for IPv6 in their network right now. They have you can actually, if you have the right customer premises equipment, you can be they are pure IPv6, and they also have a carrier grade IPv6 v6 to 4 translator as well. So they can actually support right now a pure IPv6 client. That doesn't actually have to have dual stack. Where they're at now is that the customer premises equipment need to be compliant, and that I think that's one of the bigger hurdles that they're going up. Of course, Lime, our TCT, has been a little bit lame about the whole thing. They haven't given out much information about where they're at. Just by integrating the network every now and then, I know that DNS gone IPv6. Some of their core equipment is already V6, but that's it. They haven't officially announced anything. Those information I get is really from me interrogating their network and finding out how to do things on the network and seeing that there's some support for IPv6, but I don't know how, if it was a wider project that they're doing or it just they upgraded equipment and they happen to enable IPv6. Okay.
Mm.
Yeah, so that's actually where we're at in the region per se. We are with that.
I think we could devote a session of this Hangouts thing like maybe next week or the week after or something. Let's say give everyone 2 weeks to prepare something. We could talk about the whole IPv6 stack and stuff. I think that'll be a really interesting discussion. Everyone could learn a lot about the future of the internet doing that.
Okay, yeah. Because we used to have that track a lot in Caribbean, the IPv6 track. We might carry it back for the next meeting.
Yeah.
The how to roll out and how to push out IPv6 configurations.
That's in Trinidad, Cardinal. That was from Trinidad.
Well, the next meeting will be in Curacao.
All right, well, hard luck for me then.
Next year, next year we will have a meeting in Trinidad.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, that one I expect to see a lot of folks from on this group there. I'm going to be down there. The one next year in April is Antigua, so I'm definitely gonna be there. And the one in Trinidad, I definitely will be there. I can't make Curacao in October, but next year's both of them, both Caribbeans.
Yeah.
I will be there, and I intend to see a whole bunch of Trinities there.
Yeah. So.
And I think, yeah. Go ahead, Steve. Go ahead.
No, I was saying that we need to build a community. I think one of the problems we have is isolation. We don't really communicate as a group or a community as much as we should. Okay. The brain space is a little bit isolated in the Caribbean. So the meetings, the bigger go to the meetings. We have technical training, but the bigger go to the meeting is also to build a community. So you can have Google Hangouts, you can have Facebook groups, pages that have people who are resident in the region and who can actually do stuff.
Well, so how about say 3 Hangouts from now? I'll remind you on whatnot. We can have a little discussion on IPv6. Give everyone time to prepare and all that, and we can talk about it because everyone could contribute and help to catch up everyone else's knowledge. It's really important stuff,
Well, I'll be honest. I think while it is a good discussion to have, a good topic for a hangout, I think it would be better served if folks go and check on it, go offline and check on. That's not right now, but offline, read up on it, and
so we can have an intelligent discussion.
Yeah, not only having an intelligent discussion about it, but specifically. As it applies to Trinidad, to Antigua, to the Caribbean. Because as far as I understand it, and this is just based from Steve's just mentioning it, Flow Communications is the only one who's even close to being able to offer the service to the end user. I think that what would be better is okay, I'm hearing something. I don't know if it's one of us or what, like something blowing into the mic. Okay, great. All right, thanks, Lieutenant. That was it. But I think what we want to also look at is how that would change, how that would impact the end user, how it would impact developers. Just off the top of my head, I can't see how it would implement developers outside of just having users, the end users, having IPv6. Because servers will just continue operating as they have always had. I think it's just. Not just, but I think peer-to-peer communications.
It's not so straightforward, actually. The servers, the software and the servers have to now support IPv6. Okay. The applications often have hard-coded IPv4 setup inside them. So some code have to be rewritten for some server application actually. So for developers, it affects both system integrators like network engineers and also developers. But developers now have to write code that implicitly take advantage of IPv6. Web servers that actually offer service have to actually support it. So it's not just switches and routers, but also server software as well as applications that we were running on that software and those servers as well. People hard
What
code
about,
stuff, yeah, right?
I was just saying, what are situations whereby, well, I'm looking at this in terms just from the web developer, from the guy who's sitting down and writing the code, writing, like building a website. As far as I can think about it, they're not going to really be implementing
Not usually,
IPv6.
not usually, but they still have to do a call to a database that's not local to the server, but on another server. They then need to be
Right.
aware of IPv6 issues. Okay? If they are completely local,
Right.
no, there's not much
Right.
effect. But once they have to access the socket library or access some network component, they will have to be aware. Okay?
So that would be only that would be only that would sorry to interrupt, but that would only matter if they're using the IP address.
Yeah.
If they're using DNS, it
Have to establish.
shouldn't really matter to them.
If they have to write software that establishes a connection or listens, things like that, they'll have to be aware. Other than that, no, as a rule. If it's just going to use some variable application or protocol.
Yeah. The key is that he might, a web developer might not need to do it because the libraries for socket connection would hide that from him. But that socket layer need to be aware of it. And so if you're a web developer and you need to actually ensure that all traffic comes to your server, you then know that will probably determine the host provider that you choose. The question you ask was the host provider say, hey, do you support IPv6? Okay, no, well, no, goodbye. Okay, but you might not need to actually consider it a lot if you're writing software. But you need to be aware of it that if there's an ongoing migration in the web to IPv6, there may be some providers that are not thinking about it. Okay, and when you choose web providers, you might need to actually ask questions like that.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from, and I agree. I'm only just bringing it up due to the fact that the developers are the ones that are like that last line before the end user, the consumers. They're the ones who are using the whatever the developers develop.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so I've been just trying to think,
Implicitly,
how would we,
end user.
Yeah, I was just here thinking, how will we explain to the end user the benefits of the IPv6 migrating to IPv6?
My idea, because
And what they will see.
Okay. My understanding of it is that, well, implicitly it doesn't really affect you end users as much, but I think we could leverage marketing with IPv6 as a new technology, announce to them that they need to make sure their routers that they buy are IPv6, put pressure on the providers to actually migrate. But on a technical point of view, no, it doesn't affect end users. However, I think the voice of marketing could be used in this case to help push the cause. So I would announce IPv6 like like 4G. Okay, but make sure your cell phone IPv6 compliant, because you can assign more IP addresses to more devices. It will be faster. It will be everything. So, but from a technical point of view, no, it does not affect end users. But I think we should leverage propaganda to help our cause.
And about this, all these small devices coming up now, and IPv6, and of course the address space exhaustion you were talking about just now. IPv6 is only 48 bits for the address, or it's 64
Exactly.
bits. It's only 48. I don't even know why they didn't go up to 64.
Yeah.
So
Pardon me?
that was.
Yeah, I guess it's the time that they came up with the idea. They never thought that it would be anywhere close to what they thought. They thought it would be just an engineering network. There's no way.
No,
Pardon?
even not just IPv4, even IPv6, they went with only 48 bits. That doesn't make any sense.
128 bits is actually 128 bits.
It's one. But okay, I was wrong. Let me see. Sorry.
Yeah, IPv6 is actually 128 bits.
Okay, well then. Okay, yeah, that's epic.
Yeah, and that gives you, for every human being, every equipment on the planet, you have
Yeah,
1 million IP addresses.
A very long time.
Okay. Only when we start with galactic planets or something that we might have to be concerned about it.
of which
Interesting on.
of which Vince Cerf, the father one of the fathers of the internet, is actually doing research into.
Hello?
As in, like addressing on planets across planets or something.
Hey,
The
Vince
man of
Cerf,
the hour
he's
speaks.
actually doing research into that.
Yeah, actually, I think NASA did the first IP transmission from Mars. They did a music video that was sung from Mars, but they use the IP network to do it. There's a new protocol that they're testing out for transplanetary communication that's using IP.
So
Okay,
you'll have
so
you see class for IP addresses. You know,
pardon
class A for Mars, class B for Venus, something like that.
Well,
Sounds like
the
Elizabeth
problem, the
Bus.
problem with transmission to these planets is that it's a delay. So therefore, the timeouts on the typical timeouts on TCP/IP have to be modified to allow it to work properly. Yeah, it does take about
Space
5 minutes to
internet.
go to Mars for packets to go there and come back.
Yeah, it's called IPN, Interplanet Network,
Yeah,
Interplanetary Internet. Sorry, Interplanetary Net Internet.
yeah. So they did the first test on that. That'll be a long way off. You know, IPv6 should serve us well for a while.
Oh my, this technology we're doing with, man. Just today, I'm realizing over the last 3 days, I realized I had to change up a whole bunch of approaches to my business as it applies to technology and solutions for my clients. Uh, and just this afternoon, I see a whole new ball game that I gotta sit down and think about and ask myself, do I really want to? Not necessarily do I want to. I may have to actually go down this road
Yeah.
to
Even web
with
space, like people
technology.
compile everything you just moves too damn fast when you get to the web. Like okay, offline technology, you could talk about okay, applications don't move that fast. You could be a C++ programmer, not have to learn a whole lot for you could go for 20 years without learning anything. You get to the web, everything is changing really fast. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Actually, I do have an idea. I know your idea appeared gone, but I've been thinking about this technology. Ever guys ever hear about standing wave tractor beam sound, ultrasonic sound?
Right?
Using
Repeat that.
using sound waves to actually lift and manipulate objects, almost like Star Trek tractor beam.
Yeah,
But
Yeah, I've heard
I read
something
about
about that a while back.
yeah. They recently able to
Wow.
manipulate objects in 3 dimensions. Before they only had one-dimensional, 2-dimensional manipulation. They're now able to manipulate objects in 3-dimensional space. I was thinking of using the technology to replace wheels and trolleys. Because we move boxes so often, like we're going from one conference to the next. We carry so many equipment all over the place. I was thinking of using this technology to replace wheels and trolleys. And so therefore, the loaders would have these battery packs and put this underneath the bottom of the trolleys that replace the wheels, and we use that to allow it to go upstairs, going up along ramps without actually having to use as much force as we used to do it. Okay, it was a problem I had that I realized that we move a lot of equipment when I go to a different location. We do webcasts. Okay, we do webcasting quite often for different events. So the camera crew, the audio crew, the web encoder crew, all have boxes that we have to move, and so therefore we always have to go going upstairs. The locations are not designed for wheels in most cases. You have to lift them; they're quite heavy. So I was thinking that this technology that allows to levitate, basically replace wheels and levitate the object and move them up and push them across effectively a frictionless plane, allowing us to carry boxes and that sort of thing quite easily. I have to dig into it because I hear the algorithms for manipulating the standing waves are pretty complicated, but That was my idea for the day.
Hmm.
That sounds like what's the name of that character in X-Men?
Which like
Um,
Banshee.
Banshee. Banshee, yeah.
As a
Yeah,
more
that's like
sophisticated
the
version of that. Yeah, yes, that's a little bit sophisticated. I guess it's the same thing. Yes. However, yes, it's similar. The key is to manipulate the standing wave reflected off ground in a way that allows it to conserve energy, which actually gives the lift and allow it to become stabilize the upward force with the downward force. So it's actually a positive plane of the curve. And then when you push it, it's as if you're sliding across a frictionless plane.
Boy.
what
So,
maybe to do that? Crystals.
pardon me?
Crystals.
What's
I
crystal?
remember reading somewhere. I remember reading somewhere that you may be able to use crystals. I think it's a quartz crystals
Yes,
to create
beautiful.
focalized.
I guess I'll
Let me see. Quartz crystals for focalized. Uh, crap. What's it called? Oh, bloody hell! I read this in a book as well. The
Ah,
technology is to use certain crystals and to vibrate
this
them
is
at a certain
somebody.
frequency. And if you send one a certain frequency and you send another frequency,
Mm.
you're able to create at the vocal point. Um, what's it called? You're able to throw voices. Uh, I'm trying to remember where it is. Imagine you take a light, you have a light beam, take another light beam, and you shine them at a different angle where they
Yeah.
crisscross. That's diffusion. If you're able to send certain frequency of one audio source and another frequency of a different audio source, and you know, and at a particular frequency, you're supposed to be able to create uh, sound
Okay.
at a particular location. The
Oh,
purpose behind of it is to be able to throw voice, to throw to throw
Yeah.
to throw voice. I'll make it appear that voice sound is appearing right next to you.
From the point rather than from the
Oh, bloody
distance,
hell.
right?
okay. All right.
Let me check
Um,
here.
is it similar to like you if somebody talk in a room and you want to hear the sound that the person singing, you can use a laser to hit any vibrating surface in the room, and you can essentially reproduce the sound actually probably a mile away.
Yeah, it's part of 3D holographic technology.
Yeah, pardon?
So it's part of 3D holographic technology. So
Okay.
you project the image at a certain point, but you don't want to have the sound coming at a point from a source miles away. You want the sound to sound like it's coming from the hologram itself. You get
Okay.
something? Yeah, that's part of that technology.
All right. Okay. Interesting.
I'm here looking for it here. But the reason why I brought it up is because it sounds like you may be able to utilize uh, hypersonic sound system. That's what it's called.
Okay.
Uh,
Hypersonic sound system.
yes. I'm looking at it here. Yes. In fact, there's a TED talk about this. I remember that's where I saw it. Let me see if I can bring this up here. Find it here. But this may be what you're interested in, Steve, because
Mm.
this guy here, he basically used this technology whereby he can focalize audio, um, audio waves at one narrow particular location.
Hmm.
And if I think if you can do that, then it's just a matter of power to
So
be able
yeah.
to.
Okay. The key here was to create the source generator, which is what I want. To be able to create that ultrasonic sound generator that to set up the standing waves. Okay, that will give the levitation. But then the next part is the energy needed to actually create such a thing. The batteries. I was thinking more like belt
Yeah.
packs for the batteries. Okay. Some belt pack. You put in a belt with some lithium batteries and have the speakers, the sound generators under the trolley itself.
Hello.
I think it's possible.
Okay, all right. I'll take in this TED
You want to
conference.
hear me?
Yeah, we hear you. Lasana?
Yes, I can hear you. Who's Lasana? Thought we lost you.
How you guys doing?
Hello, welcome back,
Not too
friend.
bad. Not too bad. We got the third Trini on the crew.
The third training.
Who's that?
Yeah, Lasana's in Trinidad.
The Trinity.
Oh, somebody else here from Trinidad?
Rifle.
And yeah,
Kofi.
Steve. Yes, Trinidad. Well, Steve's in Trinidad.
Yeah, I said that. Yeah.
Oh, you're in Trinidad. Okay.
Yes.
Oh, that's nice. Where you from originally?
Jamaica.
Ah, okay. Very interesting. Small world, boy.
Yes, it's
Oh yes.
the world's getting
Yes, yes
smaller
it
every day.
is. Yes it is. But yeah. The thing is that there's so much technologies out there and so much possibilities. Um, right now, I'm just working my butt off just to be able to afford the time and resources to be able to
Yeah,
mess with and play with some
yeah,
of the stuff
yeah.
that's on my head.
That's the big thing, eh? Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm doing all this
There's
consulting gigs.
so much stuff on
There's
it.
so much stuff out there.
And the
So
thing is
there's
that
a.
here in the Caribbean. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go on.
No, you good. You good. You good.
No, I was just gonna ask. There's another guy here. I didn't catch the name. I'm guessing you guys were all at the Carib now event with Sanford, right?
Well, yes,
Yeah.
well, a few of us.
Yeah. I think it's just me and Steve. Uh,
Oh, okay. So the other guy, sorry, I had my microphone off there. The other guy, who was that? That was someone from one of the groups or something.
no, just there's just Steve. There's just Nikolai and Lieutenant here besides you and Steve. You, Steve, and myself.
Yeah. And so you watch your own profile, boy.
I'm sorry. Repeat that.
No, I say I must be watching my own profile because I saw another person there. Probably when he came, he dropped on and dropped off or something.
Yeah, we've had our little clones and ghosts today.
Yeah, there are people
Okay.
coming on multiple times.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, well, let me stop you guys. It sounds like you were breaking the ice and the conversation's flowing, so please continue.
But yeah. There's always opportunities out there. It's just so much to do, so little time.
Yeah, we're
And
hoping
here
that
in the Caribbean,
yeah, we're hoping that groups like this might be able to stimulate some of the stuff getting done. That people don't work on projects by themselves, but groups of people working on projects by themselves, and different projects. That's the next thing we want to do. We want
I
to
agree.
create little projects that we work on together, and so that and push that forward.
I'm for that.
I'm sorry. Repeat that.
That I'm for that.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah,
Well,
just
one
like
of the
how
things.
we,
One
yeah,
of the things. No, I was just saying that one of the things that I'm putting together the documentation for is this thing I call Overwatch. The purpose behind of it is to basically it's kind of like what the folks in the lawyers wanted us to do. It basically collects all the packs going over just before it goes onto the just before it goes in and out on a network
Mm-hmm.
on the internal side, on the local area network side.
Yeah.
It collects everything and then dumps the conversations into a MySQL database
Okay.
that I can then do query on later.
Okay.
But for me to pull this thing off, I'm doing it with a Raspberry Pi and then and then and then synchronizing the logs to a bigger server
Okay.
with a huge 3 terabyte drive and like about I think I got 8 gigs of memory in it. And so far I've been running it for about about 8 months. No, about 3 or 4 weeks. No, about 3 weeks. And I'm just scared to start running queries on it. Last time I ran a query on it, it lasted literally 8 hours.
Yeah, I had a similar server. It had about 8 gigs of RAM. It had a 1 terabyte disk. I was pumping all my firewall traffic into it. It worked fine until one day I wanted to make a query. It saved the data in a PostgreSQL database. One day we were tracking down some. I think we thought there was some security event on the network, so we were doing some queries. I made a mistake. I made a query that took 1 month after to display 1 month of the database information. The server just died. Simply. The query was too big. It ate up all the RAM, and the server never came back on. Yes.
Never came back on?
No, I never came back on. The
You
motherboard
mean you
died.
turn it off and it came back? You mean you turn it off and turn it back on and came back on?
Yeah, no, it never booted back again. I don't think
You're joking.
yeah, I know. It was too old. I think it was just too old, and it was running for about
And
6
some
years.
death destroy our servers.
A query killed my server. Watch
It can
that.
happen.
Yeah? It was a
It can
WatchGuard
happen.
management server, okay? By the way,
Ah.
WatchGuard management server. There was a server that can log and pull all the data from the firewall.
Oh
Anything
yeah.
that
Okay. Yes.
firewall, you pull it and store it into MySQL database. Database, and it just grew and grew and grew and grew because I was logging everything until making queries against that thing was just awesome.
Jeez. And they want to tell us they want us to hold it for 2, 5, and 7 years.
Yeah. As I say, it kept it done. It's just that the awesome amount of technology required to get that done with us. That would be more expensive than actually providing internet access you want.
No, I
Right?
no, I say I'm just the data that I'm generating here. I'm trying to get access to it to go over it to at least see exactly how far I'm with it.
Yeah.
I might have to come up with some other alternative solution because the purpose behind it is for me to see to get alerts when folks are using up too much bandwidth and to look to see who's hogging the data. But
Uh,
this thing
yeah.
here,
Well,
Yo, I suppose code could simplify a whole lot.
the way
Read
I do
that?
that, I use SolarWinds to do that sort of thing. SolarWinds give it real-time data and that sort of thing, and you can't collect the data actually. What it does is that it does intelligently assess the data that's currently going on, and then create an alert for unique scenarios. It doesn't actually give the data. It says, hey, this guy using too much data. This node providing too much traffic, and send it back. It doesn't actually collect the data, so therefore it doesn't have to actually collect all the data. Okay? So what you do is that you
Does it?
right.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, you set up
No, I say, does it look at?
profiles that it looks for. Like for example, if a node starts to exceed 2 megs per second, then send an alert. Okay. It doesn't care what actually goes on in the actual stream itself. It might give you the destination stream and the source, but that's it. So it allows you to actually strip down the data to the bare essentials, then send it and store that. But don't actually store the actual data itself, okay? I guess it's more like storing the metadata versus the actual data itself. It helps you to actually reduce the data set so it becomes more reasonable. So, and even WatchGuard, when you configure the rules, you specify which one you want to actually log. Don't log everything else, you just kill yourself. You go through and determine what would be interesting, and then send that back.
Well, question. There's this thing here. There's this WatchGuard. I'm assuming you're talking about the real-time flow analyzer, right?
Yeah, the management server, the logins and the rules them. You can create a management server that collects all that for you.
No, that you're talking about for WatchGuard.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about for SolarWinds.
Oh, SolarWinds.
You have to.
Yeah, it's NetFlow. But you don't have to use NetFlow alone. You can use simple SNMP. You can use simple SNMP, and then configure the alert tab. Look for particular patterns. You go in the alert pad to actually come up with the rules. It can get complicated. You're telling it to actually send an alert when this set of scenarios happen. Okay. So you have the basic alerts that you set up in.
Does it read peak up?
Yeah, peak or something like that.
Does it read peak up? Does it read peak up?
No, it doesn't.
Peak up files?
No, it doesn't read peak up files. No.
Technology.
I was using Wireshark.
Yeah, Wireshark is my go-to.
Yeah.
Hey Kurt, welcome, man.
Hello, Kurt.
Who is this now? Who is Ubuntu?
Kurt,
Another Trini.
Another Trini?
Yeah.
I told you, man, this is a Trini group.
I assume that Mr. Kirk is pure and unadulterated Ubuntu fanatic, right?
Yeah, that's him. He's an Ubuntu interested party. He is the leader of I believe, the local Ubuntu local group, the local group sort of initiative and whatnot.
Okay. I never knew you were so well connected.
No, man. I don't remember how I got connected. I think somehow I saw Caribbean something somewhere, and I joined the Facebook group, and then Lasano, he introduced me to Hangout, and I think I logged in once, and somehow I just got hooked.
Okay.
And I met these other good folks here, and it's cool. We're all into technology. We're all in the Caribbean, and yeah. But at the same time, I'm going to repeat this. I want to try and see if get more folks into CaribNug, into the Caribbean Networks Operators Group.
Okay.
Because this is a very, very good resource to learn a lot of stuff. I mean, the meetings, you get to see and talk to a lot of people that I promise you will never ever talk to, but you will see their how can I say, you see their handiwork just about doing anything. I mean, we met one guy he's how did he describe it? How did he describe it, Steve? How did Martin describe Akamai?
Martin is from Akamai, right?
Yeah, he described Akamai as the biggest company you never heard of?
Is the biggest mover of data in the internet.
So you
Yeah,
all had a guy from Akame at the Caribbean conference. Sorry to cut you off.
yeah, yes,
Yeah.
That's interesting.
yeah.
I think he
Because
was. I think.
go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. No, you go ahead. You go ahead.
Oh, yeah, Akamai is interesting because anytime you want to host Google any website that you want to cache in the Caribbean, he has to actually sell the idea actually. So he worked with the operators like Flow, KCT, any operator to actually get them to host our cache portion of the internet. So he's actually anything like that he's interested in it, and so he's committed to actually get Caribbean networks to the place where he can actually host things like Netflix down in the Caribbean. He will be the one pushing and distributing that content.
Yeah,
Why? How is it
that's an issue
specifically
actually.
to go ahead and do that?
Yeah.
See,
So
before we continue, we need to know. I need to explain a couple of things, uh, guys, because I myself wasn't even sure I understood it when I heard about it. Yeah, no, that wasn't years ago, but maybe about a year or two ago. But are you all familiar with the concept of a content delivery network?
yeah,
Quite familiar. I
yeah,
think I'm
I'm
losing
sorry.
bandwidth here though.
yeah. Okay.
Not too
We use
sure.
a
I
number
think
of
I'm losing
signals.
Okay,
bandwidth.
basically the concept.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
everything's
yeah. The
starting off
basic
mute.
concept behind of it is that, that yeah, instead of us trying to get data from say Netflix, Facebook, Amazon, or these major players, they would they would situate their server as close to you as geographically close to you as possible. And instead of them building out their own systems, their own data center, they would contract with a company, content delivery network like Akamai,
Hmm.
who whereby their job is to get that server or servers as close as possible to you. Now, the
Hmm.
guy who's in charge of the global implementation of that system, he was there at Karavnog, and he, among many of others at the group, we all got drunk. So you can come to Karavnog and go and drink as much beer as you want with these type of guys.
Actually, is those
Not saying
out of
not saying you
session
drink,
meetings
but
that are actually a lot of businesses do a lot of business outside the meetings. Okay, that's where things are actually
yes,
negotiated.
there's that. Yes, there's that,
Yes.
and the drinking. But
You
but
see,
uh, but seriously, it's a good resource. You talk to a lot of the guys there. You talk to people who are in charge of some very powerful networks. There was one guy. He was he's the principal. He's a principal scientist for VeriSign, where they sit down, they analyze what happens on throughout the world as it applies to the internet. We had guys from Dominica who were doing penetration testing. Uh, the Dominica Exchange Point, I got to see it. Um, you know, you meet the guys who operate the major networks. We met guys from Lime, from Digicel. Was it Steve? The guy from the folks from Digicel. They were partnered with Sat Phone,
Yeah, yeah.
with Sat or whatever they call it. Correct?
Start
Okay, okay. I just want to make sure I
start,
had that right.
yeah, it's start max or something like that. I can't get the actual name for the thing. But
Right.
Digital recently bought them out. They were the cable TV provider in Dominica, and recently
Right.
Digital bought them out recently. So for now they are
And
Digital
yes,
SAT.
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
For now, that this is sat.
And yes, Lasana, it can get. Oh,
Go ahead.
go ahead. Finish,
No, no,
finish
no,
that,
go
finish
ahead.
that.
No, I just was going to add that
Yeah, I was just
for
saying,
now
Lasana, yes.
they're joint, but I think eventually digital will take them over completely.
Oh, okay, okay. Anyway, I was just addressing Lasana and said yes, it can get a bit political, but for better part, it's more technical than anything. There's a lot more technology than politics. The politics that are at play are mostly to try and keep things as free and open as possible. Um,
So,
yeah.
so let me ask this question because this is where the conversation is starting to get more juicy. What are you guys' opinion on paying agreements and the whole concept that certain internet companies should pay internet service providers to get access to their customers?
Okay. That's one of the
I
discussion
personally,
topics.
I'm personally against.
Yeah, yeah. That one of the discussion topics that we do. IXP, however, allow you to do what we call pay, not for pay, access to each other's customers. So what we do is it tell the providers that look here, yes, you can create these print agreements that actually each other pay for it. Okay. However, having a mutual point in which we can all exchange traffic also benefit both parties because then a lot of other services can be added to each other's network much easier. However, barring having an IXP, people can come up with agreements that probably give higher priority, independent of the IXP, priority to traffic from the partners that they have peering agreements, independent of the of each other. But the IXP allow you to at least have all the parties in country able to exchange traffics so that each other can access each other's customers. That's actually the benefit of the IXP.
Right. And another issue, that's why I said this is a hairy area, because as you both are well aware, there are a lot of different issues that come up whenever you're talking at this level of the stack, I would say.
Mhm.
But there's also the issue like a while back, I had an issue where I realized, all my Google traffic to all Google services was basically on Flow's network.
Yeah.
Which, as you would say, they have Google does this thing. I can't remember what they call it. They have it. They have a article on the site about it. And Netflix started doing the same thing as well as a couple other companies. I think at a point in time, even Ford or whoever they were using for their bandwidth was doing that. But basically, they would place their metal in the internet service providers
Mhm.
actual network infrastructure so customers get quicker access. But my problem with that is that when I am doing, especially if Google when the direction goes the direction like with let's say Google payments and that kind of thing, when I'm trying to connect to you, I'm already extending trust to you and whoever your infrastructure is. If you might manage your infrastructure or outsource or whatnot, but now my ISP, there's a chance that SSL connection to my ISP is actually a connection taking place within my ISP's network, and especially if they have their infrastructure within my ISP's shop, there's always a risk that, listen, my ISP is under my government's jurisdiction. There might be abuse of power and that kind of thing, especially if you're a person who is a high political target and that kind of thing. They may be able to set themselves up to intercept my information, without me even having a clue. There'll be privacy leaks because at the end of the day, the infrastructure is there.
Okay,
And
so the core of your issue is that local politics might intervene, and since the cached version of your email supposed is stored on my ISP network.
well, I'm not even
Um,
talking about caching just yet because I'm talking about about live connection because it's not just caching the actual server.
It's actually mostly caching. Okay, when Google push their network down to an ISP here, they basically don't actually move the mailbox down to you. Okay, what they actually move down is a cached version of your email mailbox. Okay, and
But
so
if they push a cache version, right,
yeah,
and this is an SSL encrypted session,
yeah,
where is this cache stored and why do I
yeah,
have a
yeah.
flow IP address?
Yeah, it's the cache version is stored locally on the ISP network. Okay, the cache version of that mailbox or that email that you're currently accessing. Okay, so what it does is that if your popular part of your mailbox will be stored on the ISP network. Okay, now okay, there are two levels of it as well. Okay, legally they could have access to it if they're able to crack the encryption that Google has on top of that. Okay, because it's not at the actual mailbox. It's a little bit more difficult for them to actually get the information out. Okay, what they need to have to get the information out, they would need to actually have access to the primary mailbox, which is actually still on Google's main site. So you might get a local IP address, a Trinidad-based IP address. However, the primary mailbox is still being held in a US data center somewhere. Okay. So it's difficult. I can't say it's impossible, but it's very difficult for them, for a local agency here, to actually do it. However, barring that, I don't think they need to even do that because there are facilities in Google that if the government actually leverage the correct procedure, they can actually access your mailbox. You don't even need to go to the ISP network. Any government, anywhere on the planet, can approach Google and say, all right, there's a crime happening here. We want this person is suspicious. Give us access to this person's mailbox, and Google will actually give them access to your mailbox.
Right, but that's not the first with regards to privacy, that's not the issue I'm standing of
Yeah,
course, you use these services, governments can have access, but there's a
yeah,
process that will go through. But
yeah.
if
Okay.
I live in a society where often those processes are often overstepped, then my local ISP's involvement poses a risk because I don't think it's possible for them to. Well, first of all, as I said, the IP at the end of the day comes from a flow server for some of these
Yes.
services, right? A flow IP
But
address.
more importantly, what is the format is being stored in? How easy is for a local agency to get access? I think it's pretty difficult because it's not in the format. Have you ever seen a cache data before and how it is?
No,
It's,
this is
it's,
what
it,
this
it,
one.
the format is stored in nowhere close to the primary format. Okay?
No, but still, this is
Yeah.
what I'm saying. In transit, remember the SSL
Yes.
connection is between the
Okay.
two
Yeah.
endpoints, and
Okay.
it's
Now
not.
exactly. So are you saying that our government can crack that SLVP, that
No,
SL encryption?
no, I'm not saying it's a matter of crack. It doesn't need to be cracked. What I'm saying is if the SSL connection that
Mm.
I expect to be to a Google endpoint is actually to a
Yes.
Flow endpoint, that
Yes.
means my browser is accepting that certificate. It will be signed by Google because, at the end of the day, the browser doesn't refuse it.
Mhm.
But if it's a certificate within Flow's possession that they could put onto their
No,
network.
it's not in full position. The primary or the private key is never given to Flow. So that's the incorrect position there. No, they don't have the private key.
So if they don't have the private key,
They
how
don't
is
have
it?
yeah.
How does the SSL? Well, what I'm asking now is how does the SSL handshake take place then? Because you would need that
Ah,
to
okay,
compute
okay.
the values.
No, well, all you need to encrypt or encrypt the key the thread is the public key. Okay, that's all it needs. So therefore, the only agency that can actually de-encrypt that thing is encrypted first with the private key from Google. Okay, it is sent down here. Okay, then tunnel back to your browser. Okay, so the only place the encryption actually take place. Okay, after negotiate what we call the session key, which is stored on your machine. That session key is the only key that can actually de-encrypt your personal tunnel. Okay, and that is stored on your machine, not on Flow's machine, not even on Google's machine. Okay.
Is there any documentation publicly available explaining the setup?
Okay, you need to go to how SSL actually work. SSL actually work. The actual protocol. Just Google SSL and find SSL protocol how it works. There's
No, I'm
several
not talking.
websites.
No, I understand the
Yeah,
SSL protocol,
yeah.
but with regards to Google or any other service provider putting their machines and utilizing the infrastructure of an
But
internet service provider.
if you understood how SSL work, you would understand that what you're asking is not really feasible.
No, well,
Okay.
if it is all you needed to do was use the public key to encrypt, then that would
Yeah.
mean anybody could take my public key
Mm.
and pretend to be me, basically.
Yeah, yeah, and then after you negotiate, after you get your public key, it generates what we call a session key. Okay, the session the public key that Google has does not in itself encrypt your data. All it does is verify that that this IP address is validated by Google. Okay, after it validates that this endpoint is a Google certified endpoint, it then negotiates a separate key, which is called a session key. The session key is generated on the fly. Okay, every independent connection generates a new session key, and that key is stored only on your machine. Okay, and so only you, the endpoint at that point in time, can decrypt that session. Okay, for anybody else to actually see that information, they will need to actually get the private key that Google actually has, then generate from that private key a new session key that attempts to actually decrypt your information. So all the SL first doing the first is to verify that this IP address is a Google certified endpoint. That's all it does. After that step is done, it then generates a session key which only you have. All right, and that's it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
That still sounds fishy to me. But the point I want to bring
No, no.
across is
The only
that
point you could be fishy about is not the transmission, but the storage.
no,
The
this is the point I
storage of
want
the
to
cache.
bring
Yeah.
upon about much of what goes on with internet service providers and network operators. The whole shebang, everything about it, even including inter-society and that kind of thing. The documentation
Okay.
about what is actually implemented, the actual infrastructure,
Okay.
is still
Yeah.
not
But that still wouldn't give you a peace of mind, though,
public
because
enough.
it's a document saying what they do, what they should have done. It doesn't actually imply what actually is done. The only way you can do that is if some independent auditor go in and verify that this is what is being done. Okay. So even if you get documentation saying that this is what Google does, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's what's actually happening. Okay. Yeah, unless you get some independent auditor of some sort that say yes, this is exactly what they're doing. But what I told you, described to you is what should be done. I don't know what is being done right now. Understand?
I hear you.
Yeah. That's what should be done. However, something else may be happening there. For me, the greatest risk is not so much the transmission, but the storage. Because even though they say that yes, it's encrypted, it's stored encrypted format, and it's in a binary format on the hard drive. Um, there are private keys that can be applied to de-encrypt such information. Understand? The only thing that probably saved me that most 90% of the planet don't know to do that. Most governments on the planet don't have the resources to actually do something like that. Okay, but barring the United States and Russia and European countries, most other countries do not have the resources to actually implement something like that. It takes a lot of storage, and most of all, it takes a lot of computing power. If you don't have the private key, you have to use raw computing power to break it. And most of our countries, fortunately or unfortunately, do not have that resource to do that. Okay, so they may be worrying about something that they can't even do in the first place.
Yet.
Yeah,
Yet.
yet can't do it yet. The only thing that's spraying us is that that it requires far too much computing power to brute force crack a 128-bit encrypted session key. That's it. Right now, that's what the United States does. They use raw brute force to actually crack these keys. They don't have a super key. They don't have a backdoor. They just use a supercomputer trying billions of transactions per second to guess the private key.
Private individuals can do that as well. Huh? These NVIDIA CUDA clusters and stuff, where they use these GPU clusters and all that. They actually just
Yeah,
use these
but
clusters.
they're using flaws in certain protocols to get through. They're not they're 64-bit, yes. 128-bit is still what they're still using is flaws in the algorithm to actually get through. They're not to crack 128-bit require a fair amount of time, like 2 to 3 days, which by
Yeah,
then most people are invalid. You know, 2 to 3 days, although it looks short in this world of drug trade and thing, is a very long time. So at 3 days, I consider way too long. And plus, you have to actually be gathering all that data for long periods to actually get anything useful. Okay? So if you're using raw brute force to do it, 2 to 3 days, probably 4 days, based on how long what kind of key set they use inside the accessory key. Barring that, you have to use some sort of flaw in the algorithm to actually get through. Which I think most Caribbean countries, well, I don't think any Caribbean country actually has that result. So I don't think it's something to worry about. And they can do it another way. They can just simply just say, hey, Mr. G, Mr. Governor, what's the Secretary General, go and talk to Google and tell them to give us an email. This is how I think they do it. Okay? Okay, they don't have to go through all that. They say, hey, this guy did something bad. Google, give us the guy's email, and they will have the email. Okay, so they don't need to actually go and crack keys and store packets for 3, 4, 5 days. They don't need to do any of that. They just need to just go to Google and say, I am the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. This guy is doing something bad. I need to see this. However, the only thing that saves some people is that Google does publish these requests. Okay. Whenever these requests are made, they do publish requests from governments, requests for access to people's mailbox. Cool. So
The thing is,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So they don't need to go through all
the thing
that.
is that,
Go ahead.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, you go ahead, you go ahead.
No, I was just saying that
No,
they
just
don't need to go through that. They can simply approach Google and get it directly. They don't need to go through all that. So even if they weren't stored in the ISP network, it's moot. If it was stored in some in Google's network in some North American thing, our governments can have access to those networks without going through any of the complication of technology. Just simply like a formal request from a country, and they will get the actual information.
yeah. The thing is this is that there's in the Caribbean, and based on my opinion, we a lot of things are labor intensive, and so while the technology may be there to do certain things, for a lot of governments, it's easier and cheaper for them just to go and ask the big guys for this type of data, or they may just say, no what, instead of me trying build this network to crack this particular code, why not I just go over to the guy who I want the information from and crack him across the head with that information.
We're still at a fairly basic level. If we want information, we have to we cannot go and beat them up and get information out. They don't need to actually access your computer.
Now granted, doesn't necessarily mean that we have to just sit back and
Yeah,
give up and say you do nothing. The need still arises for us to be conscious about how we apply technology and how we utilize it. Um, it's it's very serious. It's a serious matter when we start looking at moving a lot of our technology, moving a lot of our services and tasks to the internet. Um, we have to be very cognitive of that responsibility to keep things secure and as secure as possible. I know there's been a history in the Caribbean, a history of distrust of the major ISPs. Uh, I've I've had that distrust. I still do to a certain degree. Um, but we also have to, take a look and see how things are set up, and and be sure that we're not jumping down the wrong person's throat.
Well, Stanford, it's funny you should mention that. Let me just be devil's advocate right here and mention something because you mentioned the distrust of the major ISPs, right? Oh, this is from a neutral standpoint. This is just an observation I've made. But
Correct.
recently, I found out that Huawei, the Chinese electronics slash networking electronics manufacturer, they do different things. But recently,
Huawei, Huawei, you talking
yeah,
the manufacturer Huawei?
yeah, Huawei. Well, however you want to
Huawei,
pronounce it.
Huawei,
But
Huawei, or whatever they do.
yeah, very popular
It's cheap.
electronics manufacturer. Well, they also produce decent electronics for cheap as well. I think they were involved in that whole baseband processor for cell phones thing. I think that was their I think they were involved in that in some, but that's off topic. But there was the news relating to the leaks that for a while the US had been accusing Huawei of basically embedding spyware into their firmware for the Chinese government to abuse and spy and others. And then one of the leaks turned flipped the whole thing on the head, and it came out that apparently the US had infiltrated Huawei's infrastructure and did the same so that they could be able to do their surveillance and that kind of thing, and that did some damage to Huawei's reputation.
Mm-hmm.
But as I said, I recently found out they have an office down here in the States and in Trinidad, sorry, and they've been working with our major ISP providers for a while. And understandable that the aggression, the passive aggression between states is nothing that the companies can control. But these kind of issues when they pop up, you'll see them in the foreign media, but the companies down here don't really do much in terms of PR to say, okay, well, this has been said, we are working with the vendor to ensure this, that, or whatever is happening. Rather, not too long ago, actually, TSCT has been boasting about their Wi-Fi projects where they've brought, not Wi-Fi, the MiFi thing where they've brought wireless internet to some of the more rural parts of the country. But these these issues are in the news. It might be in the local media because we don't have that kind of appetite down here, but it's real issues down here. And as any ISP provider, because apparently from what I hear, all of them been working with Huawei, you need to address these concerns. At least make a press release or something saying that we're looking into it to make sure everything okay. Because if you have on one end the foreign media reporting this is what might be taking place and the ISP is not even saying anything about it, then how are we supposed to trust that our ISPs are not, susceptible to abuse?
They probably are, I think. Um, um, well, again, with the caveat that we must always be careful and vigilant, not become complacent. Just like everything else, we don't have terribly sophisticated people running our ISPs. Okay, that caveat I have a caveat that we must always be alert. We must always be sensitive to our thing. We encourage people to always dig into things, look behind the story, and things like that. But we don't particularly have terribly sophisticated operators in terms of that end of the business. The areas that people mostly don't trust the ISPs with is with number one, pricing, price gouging, reliability. These are the areas that people generally don't trust the ISPs with. Once a technology it requires too much effort, they tend not to get involved with it. I guess it's just laziness on their part. Okay. So I'm not trusting them. I'm not saying that I trust them. I'm saying that they're not terribly sophisticated. Okay, with what you are putting backdoors and patches, the same thing is also true of Cisco. It's also out as well that Cisco have patches and flaws in their routers that also allow US access to certain networks that they're not supposed to have. Okay, and Cisco published to the American government flaws in their operating system that only certain people know about. Okay, so Yahweh is not the only manufacturer that doing stuff like that. We're by and large Trinidad is a Cisco dominated world, and all those Cisco routers have that same vulnerability and weakness. So therefore, if in theory, if these flaws or these technology backdoors are actually revealed to the operator, in theory, yes, they could take advantage of it. Okay, the issue is, do they? Which I don't think so, no, but the possibilities exist. You know, I can't deny that. But it's not only the Chinese government doing it; the Americans doing it, and Cisco has been caught with their hands saying that yes, they do tell them these flaws before they patch it. Okay, and so therefore, when firmware goes, the firmware might be going out a year late when everybody knows about it already. Okay, but flaws that are not well known and not well publicized, they leave options for people to have backdoor into network settings. So yes, it is possible. But personally, I don't think any operator down here doing it. The danger is more from American agency want to access their network. Since their network are not particularly secure, they're not vigilant. They will allow access from outside governments into their network. That's actually the bigger risk. That because our ISPs are slack and not very vigilant, they will allow outside agents to actually penetrate their network very easily. Yeah, so that's my position on that one.
Makes sense. All right, well, listen, guys. It's been for an hour and a half. Unfortunately, I've got to rush off, get ready for this week. Uh, so I'm going to just go ahead and thank everybody for coming out. We're going to try and do it again next Sunday. Lively discussion. I know there's much more stuff that can be talked about. Uh, and yeah. Thank everybody for coming out. If you guys have any last comments, go ahead and drop them. Any last comments?
I'm good.
I'm good myself.
Yo,
Okay.
what's up, Stanford?
What?
No, I was just saying, any last comments before closing out?
Nah, I was just saying hello to everybody.
I have a last comment actually before we sign off.
Okay.
Friday we actually managed to pull off a pseudo tech meeting. It wasn't as grand as one might have expected, but we got a couple of people to come out and it was interesting. Richard was there, Kurt was there, one of Kurt's friends, Andrew was there, well, Richard brought his family and I was there as well. So, you know, it's really nice and hopefully it's a sign of things to come.
This is closing.
Add to the community.
Okay, cool. That's very nice. Very good. Good to meet you guys. It's the first time I've participated in something like this, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was nice meeting you too. That was really fun.
Okay. Great.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to be closing out. I want to thank everybody for coming out. The Hackers Hangout 23, and look forward to seeing you next Sunday. Same bat time, same bat channel. Take care.
I take care.
Right, peace.